America is known to be called the land of opportunity. Through the United States public school system, children in America have all kinds of opportunities to take advantage of. For example, co-curricular and extracurricular activities. Do you have memories of being involved in sports or music in grade school? Can you imagine how things would be different for you today if you had never had the opportunity to participate in any of those programs? For many of us, these activities have influenced us immensely. So what happens when these programs are eliminated? In America, we have big dreams of an advancing education system that can be modeled across the globe. We want our children to have a good education and equal opportunities. So how does it make sense that in the future, our children may have less opportunities in their schools than we had had 20 years earlier? I have been involved in band, choir, jazz band, and orchestra since elementary school, and I still participate in those ensembles today as a music education major at NDSU. School activities have greatly influenced me in the choices that I am making for my future as a music educator. It is in my opinion that school activities are a crucial part of the public school educational experience. With the ever-present threat of social activities being cut, there should be a certain level of concern among parents and community members. In this speech, we will discuss the problem of budget cuts and how they are affecting school activity programs. Then we will learn how school activities add to the level of education and welfare in the public system. Last, we will discuss possible solutions to this problem. Let's begin by talking about some examples of how these budget cuts are beginning to affect the level of public education across the nation. The problem is that public schools across the country are being forced to cut extra and co-curricular activities out of their program of study. Many people would agree that one of the most important parts of an educational program is how comprehensive it is. According to Martin Rayala, the art, media, and design consultant for the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, studies show that schools that cut arts programs end up within the next 3 years spending more money on core education classes, and their test scores in those subjects end up going down as a result. Rayala comments that there are 7 ways to communicate information. Words and numbers are only 2 of them. The other 5 are sound, images, objects, and spaces, and movement, all of which are provided through the arts. In fact, researchers Francis Rauscher of the University of Wisconsin and Gordon Shaw of the University of California, Irvine have found that music lessons have been shown to improve a child's performance in school. After 8 months of lessons, children showed a 46% boost in their spatial IQ, which is crucial for higher brain functions, learning in complex mathematics, science, and engineering. Also, through other kinds of after-school activities like clubs and organizations, children develop social skills that improve their academic performance and establish stronger relationships with caring and responsible adults. For example, participation in club activities during middle childhood was linked to higher academic performance and self-esteem. Participation in sports was linked to higher social competence and contributed to better health and lower likelihood of childhood obesity. Noting all of these obvious benefits of school activities and their significance in the education process, how can we expect a comprehensive and thriving education for our youth when these programs are gone? Now, while we always have the students first in mind, they are not the only ones who are beginning to feel the brunt of budget cuts in the coming years. According to the California Teachers Association, more than 100,000 teachers are in jeopardy of losing their jobs come the 2009 school year. The California County Superintendents Educational Services Association predicts that more than 50% of school districts will not be able to meet their financial obligations to their students this coming year. This also means that college students like myself and many others who are working their way to becoming educators and teachers will face serious setbacks due to budget cuts. with districts most likely having to lay off non-tenured teachers and raising class sizes, the need for new teachers across the board will dramatically decrease. So, what is it that is leading to all of these budget cuts? The cause is that budget cuts are leading to the loss of extracurricular and co-curricular programs. In an article published by the New York Times in March 2008, Mayor Michael R. Bloomberg and Governor Eliot Spitzer of New York said a dramatic downturn in the economy is forcing them to reduce the amount of money that they had planned to spend on schools after a long-standing financial education lawsuit was settled last year. New York schools were forced to cut 1.75% from their current budget in January of 2008, and more dramatic cuts are expected for the next school year. Alicia Cortez, the parent coordinator at Intermediate School 302 in Cypress Hills, Brooklyn, had stated, "This is all parents are talking about. We have been getting better for a while, and we thought there was a way to progress, and then all of a sudden there's these cuts. You can't cut off people's arms and legs and expect them to succeed." Ms. Cortez said that she was extremely frustrated that her school had to scale back on after-school programs this year when it lost more than $107,000. Heading all the way across the country to comply with new budget cuts in California, schools would have to turn to some very ugly possibilities just to be able to remain afloat, including the loss of certain after-school activities. According to an article posted in the University of California Stanislaus newspaper in March of 2008, the loss of $4 billion a year would force schools in California to either raise their class sizes by 25%, shorten their school year by a whole month, or lay off more than 50,000 teachers and employees. These cuts put school activities in line for the chopping block. Knowing more about how many schools are at risk for losing their school activities programs, we should begin to consider solutions to this problem. Educational budget cuts should not be made unless they are completely necessary, and if so, they should be aimed equally at all aspects of education, not just school activities. In 2002, a new piece of legislation called the No Child Left Behind Act was passed by the Bush administration. As described in the book No Child Left Behind, Issues in Development, written by Paul Burkhardt in 2008, this legislation is a school reform act that holds schools accountable for the education their students receive. Students must complete tests on core subjects in school. If the achievement gap is reduced, the school is rewarded. If the achievement gap is widened, the school is punished by a means of less funding. The most common programs cut in the K-12 educational school systems are arts education, early childhood programs, and before-school and after-school programs. It is obvious that the effect of the No Child Left Behind Act on extracurricular and co-curricular activities is purely negative, and in the interest of the students, this type of legislation should be either changed or discharged. Also, as mentioned earlier in the speech, budget cuts are sometimes aimed solely at activities programs, and their savings are spent on other core parts of education. This type of spending can actually become detrimental to the student's overall education and can also stir up a lot of controversy. Several organizations have been formed by parents all across the country to stop this kind of budget spending. If budget cuts are absolutely necessary, they should be applied equally across the entire school curriculum. Budget cuts are dramatically affecting the number of co- and extracurricular activities being cut by public schools. These programs are integral to success and social development in early years, and steps must be taken to protect them from being removed. Today we have discussed the problem of budget cuts and the consequences that ensue in reference to school activities programs. We also discussed 2 ways that these budget cuts could be eliminated or changed so that they no longer solely affect school activities programs. While these solutions may be too late for the districts that have already had to sacrifice their activities programs, they may help prevent similar events from happening.